museum was the brainchild of Victor Hodgson. I mean, it was found at Achnacarry is the story, and it looks like an ornament. How you would possibly, yes. I suspect it was just that, rather than anything that was really productive. Well, that's right. Yeah. Well, you'll see. Governor's room of the Fort William, which clearly is featured in your imagination. Here's the governor's room, which, when the governor's building was demolished, the innards came to us. And I have a vision that this was, that this narrow entrance was so that the governor couldn't be rushed by one person at a time.
I think that's a very sound supposition. That's a very deep jam there.
And for all we know, this dates back to 1690, when the fort was properly established. We know the history of that. The colour, which was described as being inappropriate, was the lowest layer when they peeled all the layers off back in the 1950s when we obtained this. And stone is relevant in that at the time of the siege of Fort William, the Jacobites got to within, it's behind that rock, before the siege was finally finished.
Now, is this meant to be a cow?
A cow, which is where you might expect it to have come from. But there's a tale attached to the battle in that Ian Lowme, who was a local man, a Gaelic poet, that's his stick. He was at the battle, and Montrose said to him, "You're not going to fight with us?" He said, "No." He said, "I'm not going to fight with you, I'm going to climb a tree. And if you win, I will be so inspired that I will write a song which will have you remembered forever. If I join you and if I'm killed, then that'll be that."
Yeah, exactly.
So I'll give you a couple of lines. It was the middle of January, middle of winter, and Montrose brought his men over from Fort Augustus with snow on the ground. "'Twas the Sabbath that rose, 'twas the feast of St. Bride, when the rush of the clans shook Ben Nevis's side. I, bard of their battles, ascended the height, o'er dark Inverlochy that shadowed the fight. I saw the Clan Donald resistless in might. Fallen race of Dermid, disloyal and true, no harp in the Highlands will sorrow for you. But the birds of Lochiel are wheeling on high, and the Badenoch wolves hear the Camerons cry, come feast ye where the false-hearted lie."
Just by chance, some of the objects in the collection through to the field notebooks. So we're working on a 3-year project at the moment with the EU. And as part of that, we're going to be able to research and hopefully find out more about them, because literally when the objects arrived here, we've just got a typed inventory from 1942 when they came on loan to us, and we don't know much about them. But just round. Also, again, the Carmichael collection, the hard tartan dress is from the newest, it's 19th century, and there's an 18th century cloak at the back there. And the cloak was on loan to the BNA for their tartan exhibition, and there has been sort of talk about it touring the States.
He may have gone through the governor's room downstairs. He was in an inn in England on the way south, and supposedly Hogarth happened to be there and painted him, which is a complete character assassination, as you can see.
Yes.
There's no coming back from that. That's his trial in Westminster Hall, and that's the public execution. And a tale that they built scaffolding, apart from the scaffold, they built a series of number of platforms to get a good view, which collapsed and killed several people. And Lovett observed this just before he died, and he laughed, hence "laughed your head off" is where the phrase comes from. By the 20th century, Bonnie Prince Charlie had become a marketing tool for those peddling a profitable, backward-looking and cloyingly sentimental view of the Highlands. Any figure in a kilt, however poorly reproduced, with his name associated with it, was saleable. So there we are. There's a buck on the genuine side. This silver quaid. And Queen Victoria wrote in her More Leaves from My Trips in the Highlands, wrote that when she came here in 1847 house hunting, the weather was awful, which is why she went to Balmoral and bought that instead. But she stayed in Alberichy. But Albert went into Glencoe, and someone came out running towards him and said, "You must drink out of this, because Prince Charlie drank out of it, so he did. And then when she came back in 1873, she was widowed by that time, they had a table laid out in Glencoe village, and this quake was there, and she drank from that.
Yeah.
So the provenance of that is pretty good.
That's pretty well said.
And she wrote about it. Well, you said she wrote about it in her
Yeah.
diaries.
Yeah.
It's quite a detailed one. Most of the ones you see are made of ram's horns and things.
Yeah.
I saw one in an ancient family home that they were using for filming. That was an entire sheep's head, and then they'd removed the top of the skull and put a lid on it, and it hollowed it out.
Yeah, I've seen things like that at some of the military museums collected, and the teacup was supposedly taken to her from the States. So, and it's been donated via the States to us. So, yeah.
It's going to be the oldest quake I've ever seen.
A trigger guard found at High Bridge. Paul McDonald, who you'll meet at lunchtime, metal detected and found these bullets, but that's where the first shots of the 45 were. That we acquired at auction just recently, pistol from Inverness.
Yeah, it was a rare one, early 18th century.
And this is the affair I was talking about, which we just acquired, the stuff mill.
Yes.
And there's a twist to it in that this Angus McIntosh, who was killed at Culloden, his son, together with Lord Lovett's son, were at school close by, and they jinxed school for the day and went to watch the battle. And I followed this Simon McIntosh, who wrote this piece of paper here. This is the bit about it coming from an English trooper. He wrote a history of the Macintoshes, which is known as the Farr manuscript. He was a Macintosh of Farr. It was in the National Library, and I went down, and within that document, it talks about the sons going to watch the battle and being so terrified that they left smartly and went back home.
That's very important of them.
But he also said that he saw his father coming up to the battle, coming up to the barren moor, but had never seen such a forlorn look on his father's face as nothing could have. So this is not known about. This hasn't been in the papers. The story of children watching the battle is there, but this is clearly a relic from the. And the fact that it was found, it was obtained by an innkeeper from an English trooper, all fits. In a minute.
We just need to check it's working for us actually.
An intrusive thing.
That's a very interesting bit.
The tale again is that this is a whisky still, which was found by the curator sometime in the 1930s when she came in, found on the doorstep of the museum. And the owner had been clearly rumbled and decided rather than go to the bin that it should come to the museum. And again the story is that the customs got wind of this, and in case we started distilling our own, they came and put a hole in the side. Made these things out of a sheep's bladder and tossed it. And we obtained another one recently, which was found in a shed in Uist in the 1960s, and then kept in the family and then given to us. But we sent that to you, back to Uist, where it came from. These are ornamental spades for cutting the first sod of big engineering projects.
Ceremonial.
And there are three locally for the three different railways here. And we had, Lochiel has one, we had one, and the other one was missing. At the risk of boasting, it was Lord Abinger who dug the first sod of the West Highland Railway. And I found a phone number about 30 years ago for Abinger Hall, and phoned up and said, "Could I speak to Lord Abinger?" And he said, "Yes, speaking." So I said, "Have you any idea from the museum where the spade is that dug the first sod?" "No idea at all. Could be in the roof, could be anywhere." 3 months later, this was posted to us and arrived in a rather poorly wrapped in some brown
said you need to
paper.
write this down.
So it's returned home.
An cool a shif sent young del dunyel, who can count van til a quiman, sata chai an a meran yemast, who kiet as a night and yemen, here in horror,